Okay, I think I finally know how to make this video. Let's see how it goes. Hello everyone and welcome back. If you are new here, hi, how are you? If you are coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I just want to remind you guys that my socials are down in the description, my Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Also, I am trying to get to 1,000 subs by my birthday, which is in early March, so if you just want to do that, that would be amazing. And as always, like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more LGBTQ+ content from this face right here. So let's get into the video. Okay, so I've been trying to film this video about my gender dysphoria for about a week. Last week I tried a couple times and it just wasn't happening at all. I was scrolling through Twitter and I found this thread about gender dysphoria that I think encompasses my feelings. So I'm going to read the thread and then talk about my own experiences with gender dysphoria. You know what we don't talk about enough in this community? It's kept hidden in case someone uses it against us to question/challenge our identity. Gender dysphoria changing. Dysphoria can change, it can go away, it can come back, but nobody talks about it fading because suddenly we're not trans. Since starting T, my dysphoria has massively reduced and it's amazing. I used to feel dysphoria constantly. Now it hits like a deep dread when I think too long, but I can function somewhat happily day to day without dysphoria killing me. And I've worked hard for that. Along with T, I've had to unlearn so many things about what I thought I had to be in order to be happy. When actually letting go of everything, it's all a scam. Just be you and be happy. But is it not worth it to ease dysphoria? We rely on HRT and surgeries alone to help us when a lot of what's hurting us is our understanding of society, how it sees us, and how we internalize that. Soothing dysphoria by unlearning transphobic ideology needs to be discussed and encouraged just as much as HRT and surgery. And no, before anyone starts, this isn't some you can fix it with your mind bullshit. It's actually we've neglected our own mental well-being for so long. We don't know how to care for it now it's trans. I think one of the biggest reasons it's hard for me to explain my dysphoria is because it's always changing. And it's something I feel like as a non-binary person, if you don't have constant dysphoria like binary trans people are perpetuated to have, you're not seen as trans enough. The reason why I appreciated this thread so much and finding it last week was a really good thing was because not only it made me feel like I wasn't alone in this experience, it perfectly encompassed why I was having a hard time explaining it. Other people question trans and non-binary dysphoria all the time, and talking about my own experiences is incredibly personal, and I'm sharing the things that have been the most insecure parts of myself, and I don't want that to be picked apart. Also, non-binary people get questioned about their gender as a whole and invalidated all the time, and I don't want that to come out of this video. I have had those experiences and I'm really tired of being told I don't exist, I'm doing it for attention, or it's a political statement. When in reality, I've dealt with this for as long as I can remember. That feeling of not being connected to either gender and feeling like something was wrong with me and I just have to live through life being seen as a woman through society, and that's just how it was going to be. Dysphoria can change. I just want to thank this Twitter user for making me feel comfortable knowing that this is something that we need to talk about in our community more. That being said, I am now going to talk about my experiences with gender dysphoria and how it has changed over the years. I just want to let you guys know that this is my own personal experiences. I am not talking for any other trans or non-binary person and their experiences with dysphoria. This is all me, all Lynn. That being said, let's get into it. Ever since I was little, I was uncomfortable being seen as a girl. I was upset that God didn't make me a boy when I was younger. I would ask my mom all the time why I didn't have a penis, why I wasn't a boy. I view this as my young mind having social dysphoria and not understanding or having the language to go with that. So the only thing I could express was that I wanted to be something other than a girl, which I only knew was a boy. When I was younger, I never saw myself as different from the boys. Most of my friends were boys. I hated when I was taken away from them. I hated that I would get made fun of when I wore feminine things. Literally, skirts were my jam. It was the only way that my mom would be able to get me into a skirt because I was like, oh, it's just shorts, but there's more fabric on top of it. And I also grew up in a very, very gendered religion. I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Mormon. And I think this was one of the biggest problems for me. I was being taught by my teachers and my family that I had to be a perfect godly woman. And I never wanted that. I always wanted to be myself, like just me. I didn't want any association with womanhood when I was young. I always wanted a career and to do my own thing. And so when I would hear these things about how I needed to stay home after I was married and have kids, it never sat right with me. I didn't like having all of the pressure of womanhood from the church on me. I just wanted to be myself, be my own Lynn, and make my way through the world. For me, social dysphoria was definitely the thing I struggled with as a kid and then moving into my teenage years. I never felt connected to the you're going to be a woman someday, and it just felt off because I never saw myself that way. And then my teenage years hit like a truck. I hated it. From the ages of about 12 to 15, I was an angry kid. I was terrible. And looking back, now that I have the language and everything that I do for it, I now know it's because my body was turning into something that I didn't want. I didn't like my chest. I'd started gaining weight when I was around 11 or 12. My hips were growing in and looking bigger. I was turning into a woman, but I never felt like one. I hid my body in hoodies and baggy clothes. I hated it so much. I didn't want anyone to see me ever, which was very easy because I started being homeschooled at the ages of 11 or 12, so bless. And then I turned that hate in on myself. At 14, I decided to lose the weight, and I dropped about 40 pounds in the span of about 5 to 6 months. But losing the weight didn't do anything to help the hatred I had for my body that I thought it was going to. I wanted my chest to be smaller. I wanted my hips and love handles to go away. I used to spend hours at a time looking at the mirror trying to fix myself. I would imagine cutting off different parts of my body. I would scratch at my chest and my love handles. I would try to make myself look how I thought I would. I tried so hard to connect to the image that I was seeing in the mirror. And you know what? Some days I did, but most of the time I didn't. I couldn't figure out what was making me hate myself so much. It felt like an emptiness every single time I looked in the mirror. Like I knew I was in there somewhere, I just couldn't find myself. And looking in the mirror made that disconnection even more. That's what body dysphoria feels like, at least to me. So when I found the word gender fluid when I was 19, I was ecstatic. I felt like I'd finally found something that connected to the fluidity that I felt, to the presentation of how I wanted to mess with how I looked and having other people perceive me, and knowing that I didn't have to be stuck in that role of womanhood for the rest of my life. I'm so happy that I was able to find the non-binary community at that age, because I don't know what would have happened if I had kept living like I was. Over the years, my gender has become a little bit more stagnant. I prefer the term Libra fluid now. I know people love micro-labels. It's pretty much a fancier term for agender flux. So most of the time I feel like I don't have gender and I don't connect with gender. And then, so for me, what that feels like is 90% of the time I feel like I don't connect with gender, I don't have a gender. And then the other 10% of the time I'm like, hey, look at that, that's cool, let me get some of that. So that's how I feel most comfortable. But for layman's terms, I just say I'm non-binary. And I have days more often now where I do feel that connection to my body, where I can look at myself and I'm like, hey, that's me. That's Lynn. That's how I'm supposed to be. It's a lot easier now that my hair is shorter, that people in my life are using the correct pronouns for me. I use they, them pronouns. I bind when I can. I have had COVID, so I can't do it as much as I used to, but it was very, very affirming to me. But you know what? It's still there though. Dysphoria will always be there. It's there when someone at work misgenders me. It can be there sometimes when I look in the mirror and I see my chest and I see my hips and my love handles and I want them to go away more than anything in the world. It reminds me of the sex I was born at. It's there whenever I use my customer service voice or I laugh too high. But then I remind myself that all of those things aren't inherently gendered. I remind myself that even though I don't always feel connected to my body, that there are people who will always love and support me no matter what. I remind myself that I can work hard to love myself, be healthy, and work towards getting the body that I would feel most comfortable in. That just because society sees me as a woman, it doesn't mean I am one. I love being non-binary. It's taken me so long to be able to say that. There's so much that has told me that I shouldn't. People want to push this idea that trans people have to suffer in order to be who they are. And I think it's time that we change that narrative. We are in charge of our own stories. And I'm so proud of mine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me so long to be able to find the right words to express everything. But that Twitter thread really helped me out, and it really made me realize why I was having a hard time, because last week I was home and I was around people who affirm my gender and I wasn't really feeling dysphoric. And literally as soon as I got back to work and was around people who misgender me, I was just like, oh, there it is. I think it also just goes to show that it's the people that you're around that can really help you, and all that love and support is so necessary for trans and non-binary people. And we don't have to always hate ourselves to be trans and non-binary. It's just a mindset we have to let go of so that we can start loving ourselves, loving our community, and building each other up instead of tearing each other down. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so proud of this video. I hope you enjoyed it too. I will see you guys in the next one.